Good morning. Before I go into the other forms of marriage, like child marriage, emergency marriage, I wanted to say something about why that occurs. So in 2020, we had a bunch of forest fires here in Southern Oregon and Northern California. That caused the decimation of multiple family groups in those woods. The Yaren group south of here, about 50 miles, they had volunteers that would powder themselves in ground okra, and they would take bags of ground okra, iron okra, with them to squelch the fire in front of them so that they could go in and rescue children. That group rescued probably somewhere between 30 and 50 children that were all different kinds of cryptid children. They didn't seem to be particular about who they rescued. So in 2021 and 2022, I saw those children because I was able to track that group. I was familiar enough with it to know what their trade routes were. So they dispersed those children through other groups throughout the river system, further north of them, and arranged for ceremonial marriages, meaning hypothetical marriages. So the children would not be of marriageable age. They wouldn't be considered adults. They wouldn't be 8 years of age. They would be, newborn to 5, 6, 7. Probably more like 2, 3, 4. So the first year after the fires, most of the children were dispersed. Like 20 or 30 of the boys and some of the girls were dispersed throughout the groups, north. And they were given arranged marriages, meaning that they went through a little ceremony where they proved what they could do as boys, the kinds of tools they could make, kinds of traps they could make. The girls proved what kinds of things they could do, what kinds of food items they could collect. Could they do any kind of weaving? Could they make any kind of a basket? Could they make anything out of clay? And those children were then united in a hypothetical marriage, child marriage, like some cultures still do today. And this is a point where splitting of a tree will occur to see if the marriage is good. If the tree is split and it grows apart and falls apart, then the marriage won't happen. If the boy does something bad when they're adopted into the girl's family, because the girl still chooses which one they want. So if the boy does something bad, they do something culturally inappropriate, or they inappropriately act around the girl that they're to be married to, the tree will not be cut. It will just be stripped of all its branches. The marriage will be annulled, and the boy will be handed off. He'll be, sent to somewhere else to marry someone else, or be trained in a different field. Maybe they will be chosen to be a medicine person instead, or a hunter magic person, something like that. So they'll do something else. In the event that the marriage is good, the tree will be split, the children get along, it's a potential for them to marry in later life if they grow up together. The tree will be split. If it grows back together and twines around each other, then the marriage is considered viable, a good relationship. That will be allowed. If the tree falls apart, it splits, and the branches of it go to either side, no marriage. It won't happen. They'll annul it before it occurs. They'll see it as a bad sign. So with that sort of thing in mind, that is a common practice. They will hand children off. And then again in 2022, I saw more children being handed off to be, married out in child marriages. And then the last form, which is commonly practiced amongst the, Dogmen practice it, the Ishka, Gawanch, I think Skakaman, I know Oma practices. And that's the teepee, where they sit together and they court and they talk to each other. And there is a matchmaker. The old woman that I met, she was a matchmaker. She would watch the young ones as they were courting, And she would delineate whether or not those two individuals should be married. If the boy was too touchy-feely, she would say, no, that can't be. If the girl was reluctant, shy, and didn't want to talk to the boy, she'd say, no, can't be, because it won't make for a good relationship as adults. They won't be able to communicate. They won't be able to care for their young. They won't be able to relay vital information. So these are the kinds of mental acuities that these people have. They are aware that the next generation needs to be taught. They are aware that they need to preserve knowledge. They are aware that they need to preserve life.